you are here to help hold our elected officials accountable for what we think they are going to do, what they say they are going to do when it comes election time. And so we are grateful they are here with us to answer many, many questions. We've got a lot to fit in the time we have. My name is Susan Kirk. I'm chairman of the Governmental Affairs Committee. And that is a committee of 7. Our primary goal is that we act as a liaison and an advocate for the village, as an educator of elected officials and commissions, as well as villagers. And also we act as a leader in the community activism to get out the vote efforts. We serve as liaisons to organizations, engaging with officials, bringing Tellico Village issues to them for consideration. So it is with this in mind that we host this today. I would like to introduce the committee members in the room. Over to the right-hand side of the room, you have Mike Paulson and Scott Reedy. They are both Kahidi residents, and just behind them to their left is Greg Reedy. I'm sorry, that was Scott Black, Greg Reedy, and Margaret Carroll up front, and Steve Packwood. I don't know where he went. Okay, but at any rate, that is our committee. I would also like to recognize in the room we have John Orr and Pat White, board members, and we have Senator McNally arriving just now. Thank you, Senator. And so let me go ahead and explain how we will proceed with how this is going to work out. We will introduce each elected official. They will have 2 or 3 minutes to just make some opening comments, some opening remarks, very, very briefly, because if they speak too long, we won't have any Q&A time, and to us, the Q&A is the very most important time. And so each elected official will be introduced. They'll have a chance to make their remarks. From there, we will go right into Q&A. And how did we lose somebody already? We lost, Jimmy Davis.
He's supposed to be on his way.
Okay, and we certainly understand with his duties that he could be delayed. Okay, and I spoke with him personally, so I know he is planning on being here. At any rate, so we will proceed. So once the opening remarks are made, we will go ahead with Q&A. Those questions, if you have a question, please line up to this microphone here. Please be succinct and brief in your question. Make it direct. We want to know your name in case we need to get an answer back to you. But we want to know also who you're addressing the question to, because the camera will focus on that person. So if you have more than one question, go ahead and finish with that question. Please allow someone else to take a turn. Just go to the back of the line and keep on going. This went this way last year, and many times someone went to the back of the line and they were able to ask 2 or 3, even 4 questions. So it does work. At this time, I'm going to bring up our CEO, Chet Pillsbury, and he's going to introduce our elected officials.
Good evening and welcome to our another town hall of a different kind. All right, gentlemen, I want to, she's given you kind of the ground rules, and we'll start with Chief Jerry Dowdry. And Chief, tell us a little bit about yourself. He is, I'll tell you one thing, he is the chief of the most highly rated and officially the most well-equipped volunteer fire department in the state of Tennessee. So I'm very proud.
Jerry Dockery, I've been in the village for 16 years and been on the department for 8 years, and I have just elected my 2nd term as fire chief, so I'm into my 5th year of fire chief, and enjoy my work day to day, and we have a fantastic group of members.
Okay, for those who don't know me, I'm Henry Cullen. I'm a 20-plus year resident of Tellico Village. I moved here from Atlanta, Georgia. From 2004 to 2012, I was the fire chief here in the village, and along with a group of dedicated volunteers, we put the model in place that has got us where we are today. And a lot of it goes to Jerry. Took a couple years off, 13 and 14, to burn up some fuel on the lake, and then all of a sudden, Don Miller decided he was going to retire and not run again. So my phone started ringing off the hook, and I said to my friends that called me, I said, hey, the last thing I am is a politician. I call it the way it is and walk away. So I got elected in 2014, again in 2018. I was appointed chairman of the commission, and I run again in 2022. My one goal is to watch out for my friends and neighbors in the village. And I've done that throughout my terms. I also sit on the TRDA board as a representative from Loudon. So a lot of things have happened. Kayak launch. If you look at the parking lot at Poplar Springs, that was just redone. When they decided, the TWRA decided to not allow servicing at the boat ramps, the village went up in arms, so I went to battle with them. We got it restored. And the first time Eric Marine came back, I told him, if you drop a drop of oil on that blacktop, you lick it up. Because what happened is somebody poured the oil over the cliff and into the lake. One of the things that's been going on, you've heard about it, is the American Rescue Act money. Each commissioner was given $500,000. Unfortunately, you'll see that every April 15th until you die. That's how that's working. But anyway, I took care of a fireboat for the village fire department, paid off the library's $70,000 loan on the heating and vac system, gave $20,000 to TRDA to make sure that boat ramp got cleared up, gave Mike Thornton's Police Benevolent Group $10,000, and just Monday night, I gave Jim DeRuzzi $100,000 for our place, the extension, plus Timeless Teleco $25,000. So Kathy and I moved here from Atlanta. I'm a 34-year retiree from Ford Motor Company, been all across the country, and that's who I am.
Thank you, Henry.
I'm glad you got here. I was looking for my EPU unit.
Oh, my goodness. So, Loudoun County Sheriff, Jimmy? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and there's a little button there you got to hit to make it go green for you. There you go.
All right,
Thank you,
we'll go
sir.
from there. First, thank you for having me here today. I don't have quite a long story as Henry, because I'm half your age, right?
What's that?
No, nothing, never mind. Never mind, I'm just kidding.
No escalade.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. Born and raised in Loudon County. I've been at the sheriff's office for 29 years now. Started as a volunteer in 1994 and worked my way up, hired full-time in 1996 by Sheriff Guider to work in the jail. Went to the academy in 1997 and then held several supervisory positions throughout the patrol division. And then in 2005, was asked to come into administration as the assistant chief deputy to deal with budgets, policy, and just overall general operations of the office and the jail. 2017, the sheriff promoted me to chief deputy upon the retirement of our chief deputy. I had been with him for 26 years. And from that point, I ran for election upon the sheriff's retirement announcement, and was just elected and took office September 1st of last year. Obviously, being there for so many years, I've seen the sheriff's office grow. Our department has grown. We've gone through a lot of change. And I think that gave me a little bit of a insight to where I wanted to go in the future, because you can't forget your past if you're trying to move forward. So wanted to keep from making the same mistakes twice and to really have a good working knowledge of the ins and outs of the sheriff's office, because now we're up to currently about 122 employees. We're on track on budget approval in a few weeks to gain another 4 employees, a detective, a narcotics officer, a patrolman, and an SRO. The state this year has blessed us with all the issues going on in the school systems, public safety. They have had a grant come through to give each county $75,000 per school number. So Loudon County Schools has 9 schools, so we're getting $75,000 to pay for a new SRO or an existing SRO. So one advantage that I had is I've worked with the commission since 2005. We've gone through a couple of changes on commission, but we always have a good relationship. I went into this a little bit excited being the sheriff for the first time. I could usually get down there and say whatever I wanted. It came back on the sheriff, but now it's all me. So there you have it. So, but we work well, and you know, there's a big change in law enforcement. Part of the country is not so favorable to law enforcement. We are blessed in Loudon County and East Tennessee as a whole to be very supported by our community. And I think Loudon County is one of the best. I've always tell everybody that we are in the sweet spot to have the lakes, the mountains so close, but also you don't have the bigger problems that you might have in Knoxville and Chattanooga or even Blount County, but we're right advanced enough to be more than some of the other counties to our west and south. So we try to do everything in-house. We're very blessed with our budget. Like I said, some of you all seen in the news that law enforcement has been difficult to recruit and retain employees, just like every agency or other types of walks of business. But law enforcement especially, because of what the job is, what the job pays. So we came to, I think, a pretty fair agreement. I was very thankful. We were going to work on employees and try to get our employees where they needed to be. Even though we're asking for more employees, we've had a few vacancies, but since September 1st, well, let me back up. In 2019, we were able to, and I'll give credit where credit is due, the county commission came through and funded a $17.5 million jail expansion and sheriff's office expansion, mainly for the jail, without a tax increase, which is very impressive to do. And to be able to be one of the top 5 counties, I think it is, in the state of the best, was it tax rate for the taxes that we have? We have a lot for that. Our police service is very important to the county because you're not going to move here if you don't feel safe, and you're definitely not going to stay. So that is a big charge towards me. So we went and asked for additional personnel. We also asked for additional money. At the time we started, we were one of the few law enforcement agencies in our region to be basically fully staffed. We had 2 positions open in our jail. Since September 1st, we've hired now about 35 employees. Some left right after the election, not a whole lot, but we had some empty spaces because our staff doubled for the jails when we opened the jail in 2019. So we've had a lot. Out of those 30-plus positions, we've had 4 leave. Couple of reasons. One went for more money at a different job, totally different, kind of not related to law enforcement. We've terminated a couple of people because, you know, we're just going to run a tight ship, and that's what our county deserves. And that's a process, but we've only had 4 leave out of the 30-plus hires that we've had, so I think that's a pretty good rate. So now my plea to the commission was for more personnel, more money, for our deputies, because I think Knox County just passed last year, their corrections officers going to be starting out at $50,000, and ours start out around $40,000. However, we're trying to create a culture in our sheriff's office, but it's not, everybody knows it's not so much how much money you make, it's whether you like your job or the environment. So we've tried to improve that quite well and offer other benefits to our officers other than just pay. Like I said, the culture, the equipment, and just generally you can't beat working for Loudon County. So we really try. One of the things in the elections was really to focus on Tellico Village. Even right after we took office, we changed some patrol tactics to gain officers in Tellico Village, where we have an overlap twice a day 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., and then 8 p.m. to midnight. We have both two shifts overlapping, so that gives us twice the amount of manpower. So one of those cars, at least one, is dispatched to have a zone of Telco Village. If it's a good night, nobody's sick, and everybody works, no one's on vacation, we'll have two. One is primarily to hit the residential areas and do residential patrol, and the other is out on the parkway or the raceway, whatever you want to call it. I've heard
Drag strip.
both. I've heard both. I've heard, these people drive too fast. I was like, well, if you weren't doing 30, they wouldn't drive so fast. So I get both sides of it. So safety is our ultimate goal. So we're not out there to write tickets and things like that to harm people in that way. We just want everybody to be safe. So that's my overall quick assessment of where we're at right now as myself and the department. I thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate that. Now the Honorable Mayor, Buddy Bradshaw.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to come out. I look back 9 years ago when I first ran, I didn't know anybody out here. And now there's so many familiar faces, and that's a great thing, especially in a more active community as Telco Village is. My name is Buddy Bradshaw. I'm currently in my third term as Loudon County Mayor. I also serve as the current chairman for the Telco Reservoir Development Agency. At the Lieutenant Governor's request and discretion, I serve on the Tennessee Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations, one of the strongest commissions in the entire state of Tennessee, and also the Tennessee Local Development Agency. So I get a couple of trips to Nashville, about once a quarter anyway. So I ran in 14 to make a difference in this community. When I say community, I mean this county. I was born here, I was raised here, and if all goes as planned, someday I'll die here, hopefully later rather than sooner. But Loudon County was in the news for all the wrong reasons. And, we do things, we're such a great community, a great county, that I wanted us to be highlighted for those reasons. And that's one of the reasons I ran. And in taking office, one of the first things that we did was shake things up as far as how we do things. The one thing you could not tell me if I questioned was, well, that's how we've always done it, because that was a wrong answer, because we were going to change things up. And so I have just the most incredible team around me that I could ever ask for. You look, we have, entering into my third year, we got our first of 5 consecutive clean audits. And years prior, Loudon County had 1 clean audit period. And we rattled off 5, which is ties the state record. Now, I think we've got our 6th one last year, but the comptroller disagreed on one little thing. And guess what? The comptroller wins that argument every time. But our people are invested in the job they do. And they take pride in the job they do, and they want to do it the right way, the best way. And there's nothing more flattering to me than when you get new folks from around, when there's regime changes across the state, new mayors, new finance directors, new purchasing directors. They'll send them to Loudon County to figure out how to do it right. And that is just an incredible remark about the folks that work for all of us, because we are taxpayer funded. And the attitude I've always had is that, when I won mayor, a guy asked me once, and I think it actually might have been a young man, a teenager, he goes, well, you're the boss now. And I said, no, actually, I think I've got about 50,000 bosses now, because I answer to you all. And it's a servant's heart that I serve with. To me, it's not about power. It's about the service. And when the day comes that that attitude changes, then it's time for me to go. I love every day of my job. I enjoy serving this great county and the great people that live in it. And like I said, it's just every day is an honor for me to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next gentleman on the list is the state representative from District 21, and also a friend of mine, Lowell Russell.
Thank you, Chad, and Susan, thank you. Thank you to the Government Affairs Committee for having us here today, and thank you to each and every one of you that are in attendance here and on the live stream. I tell you, it means a lot to me that y'all take the opportunity to be involved in government, and that's really inspiring to me to be a better state representative for you all to participate, so thank you all for that. So I represent the 21st District, which consists of half of Monroe County and half of Loudon County. I've been doing that since 2018. It's sort of by chance that I ended up here. I've been, I guess, by the grace of God, that my life was spared in 2012 after my patrol car, when I was a state trooper, was hit by a tractor trailer, which left me with life-threatening injuries. I spent 5.5 years in physical therapy and just try to find a new way to serve. And the good Lord put me in this position, and I really appreciate y'all allowing me that opportunity. I can report to you tonight that Tennessee's thriving. We don't have 100% of what we want, but I guarantee you we got about 80%. We're the lowest tax state in the nation, the lowest debt per capita. We got a balanced $56.2 billion budget, all while maintaining a AAA bond rating. And if you compare that on what's going on in Washington, D.C., in the last few years, we've seen 40-year high inflation, record high gas prices. They don't know what a balanced budget is up there, and crime is running rampant across our country. And that's the difference between good leadership and bad leadership. So I'm happy to report to you that Tennessee is thriving. But after I go out and I tell people how good Tennessee's doing, I want to say I did that, but that's not true. It's the people that came before me that did that, like Lieutenant Governor McNally and Speaker Sexton, Jimmy Matlock, and those representatives and legislators and governors that came before me. The big responsibility that I've got is simple. Don't mess it up. And I won't with your help, and what I mean by that is I need communication. I'm only as good as the communication we got between us, and I take what you tell me to Nashville and try to vote the way that you want me to vote, and I take that very, very serious. So what have I been doing since 2018? We passed over $700 million for school safety, which comes in the form of equipment, school resource officers, and money for kids through K through 12 that needs mental health issues. We passed permitless carry. Don't get that confused with constitutional carry. It's where all law-abiding citizens can carry a weapon without a permit. The big question that I've been getting over the last few years, do you think Tennessee will go with a constitutional carry? I don't know. I thought that might come up this year, but unfortunately there was the school shooting in Covington and Covington School in Nashville that prevented that vote from happening. Truth in sentencing, where all the worst of the worst criminals has to serve 100% of their time. That was spearheaded by Speaker Sexton, and we was able to pass that. Two things that came out of COVID that was good. I know a lot of bad things come out of COVID, but two things that came out of COVID that was good. We expanded broadband, millions of dollars going to broadband expansion, and we also passed a law where you can visit your doctor via telehealth, and that turned out really well. We banned critical race theory being taught in our schools. We provided $15 million for new voting machines with voter-verified audit trails. We've given millions of dollars with volunteer fire departments and rescue squads, and I was sort of nervous about putting this next one in here because it might make you all a little nervous, and we provided over 300 new state troopers to be out on the road. And as I mentioned before, I had been a state trooper, so I've seen some of y'all drive, so I know why some of y'all might be sweating that one, but don't worry. Next year is election year, so I'm not going to mention any names tonight. So. This past year, we passed the Transportation Modernization Act of 2023, which creates choice lanes. It takes toll lanes out of the statute, so the state of Tennessee cannot have toll lanes in the state of Tennessee. We give $300 million to local road funding, and that's across the state, not just one county. We cut business taxes by $124 million. We banned gender mutilation surgery on minors, prohibited certain countries and non-residents from purchasing real estate in the United States. And those that are particularly interested in emergency services, we provide an $800 pay supplement for our EMS workers. Right now, firefighters and police gets a $800 supplement each year for completing their yearly in-service, and for some reason, our paramedics and EMS personnel didn't get that, and we was able to provide them with the same $800 a year in-service. We passed a 3-month food tax holiday, which will be August, September, and October. As Sheriff Davis says, we give them $140 million for school resource officers, so every school in the state of Tennessee will have a school resource officer. And we also passed legislation that raises teachers' pay with a goal of $50,000 starting pay for every teacher in the state of Tennessee by 2026. And with that, I guess I'll just wait for some questions be asked after a while.
Thank you, Lowell. I appreciate that. Last on our list is Senator Randy McNally, the 5th District.
Thank you.
Let's get you set.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and certainly appreciate all of y'all coming out for this event. It shows a lot of interest in the community, and I know the people in Tellico Village are very civic-minded, and they're voting. If you look at the amount of people that vote in elections, it's one of the highest as a percent of registered voters. So I'm pleased to be here with you and appreciate that. I have been a Tennessean since for about 75 years. I was in Memphis and doing pre-med in college there, and had such a good time in Memphis, I didn't get into med school. So I got into pharmacy school, and that worked out pretty well. And it's the same thing, you're helping people, and that's why I chose to run as a state representative. And I remember going out and doing a lot of door-to-door, and I would stop in businesses, and stopped in one country store up in Andersonville in Anderson County. And I told the fella, there were a few fellows sitting around outside, I told them I was running for state representative. My name was Randy McNally, running for state representative, and they said, yeah, we were just laughing about that today. So you never know how things turn out, and that was my first election in '86, and served in the House for 8 years. Served on the Finance Committee for four of the 8. Went to the Senate, served on the Finance Committee in my years in the Senate, with the exception for 4 years as chair of the Education Committee. And then when I was elected Speaker after Ron Ramsey decided to go home and play with his grandkids and work on his farm. But it was, I've enjoyed my role as Speaker of the Senate, which carries with it the title Lieutenant Governor, and also being a senator from Loudon County, as well as Anderson and part of Knox. And I very much appreciate the voters that expressed confidence in me. And I think Lowell had mentioned a lot of the good things that are happening in Tennessee. And one is that we rank very high in business selection sites and rank number 1 in the fiscal stability of Tennessee. And that's a reason why a lot of businesses are looking at Tennessee to come into Tennessee. And also the low taxes. Over the last 10 years, working with Governor Haslam and Governor Lee, we've reduced individuals' taxes by about $1 billion, a little over $1 billion. And also we've had some one-time tax relief, such as the month of August, no tax on food items, and things like that. But there was one year we didn't charge for state tax on license plates. So those are some of the things. As Lowell mentioned, it's very important that we maintain the fiscal stability of the state and maintain our credit rating, and that's job number 1. And in fact, the only bill we have to pass each year is the appropriations bill, and we try to keep it to just one bill and not have multiple appropriation bills going through. But it's been a pleasure to get to work with Lowell. He does a great job, and he helps me a great deal, and I appreciate it, Lowell. And also with the with the mayor of Loudon County and the time's up, I guess. and the sheriff there, and the fire chief over here. I've got a great fondness for fire chiefs. I was a volunteer fireman for a few years back with Marlow Volunteer Fire Department, and I really gained a great appreciation for what fire, police, and EMTs end up doing. But thank y'all. I very much appreciate it and look forward to the questions.
Thank you all. I'll turn it over to Susan for all the questions and answers.
Thank you so much, everybody. I want to just make one announcement that we will be having another forum like this in Kahidi for Senator Swan, Representative Russell, and Mitch Ingram on June 22nd. So watch the telegram. That's what the notice is going to look like. August 30th, Representative Burchett will be here at the Yacht Club. That's a new date that's just been confirmed. So we'll get into questions and answers. And while we look forward to civil debate, perhaps even some lively discourse, it is always with respect. Jerry Springer does not live here, and that is not who we are. And so with that, if you have a question, please go ahead and find your way to the microphone, and we'll begin. And if no one has a question, I have many prepared, but I really don't want to use mine. Your name and then who you're directing your question to, please.
Hi, Penny Mansfield. Is that right?
Press the button down. When you see green, you're live. There
Penny
you go.
Mansco. This question is for Sheriff Davis. I'm just curious, what is the Loudon County policy or procedure in allowing people in Loudon County that are here illegally?
That are here illegally? Well, usually, obviously, the manpower we have is not to focus on immigration. Our, I guess, authority is very limited on that. When we come across someone, usually they've committed a crime, and if we take that person into custody, our policy is we contact ICE, which is the Immigration Service, and they determine where we can hold that individual for up to 48 hours, and then that government agencies decides where they're going to spend the time to deport that person or let them stay here to answer their charges and then to deport them. So a lot of times we don't have really a big say to that because obviously we can't house them all. We can't enforce those immigration laws that I know of. And then we usually depend on a federal agency to take over that, and we're basically at the mercy of them, which obviously they're not going to get, I'm just my personal opinion, they're not going to get any help from the federal government to fund them to be able to do the right thing and deport them back to their country. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Your name, please.
My name is Tom Fall, live in the village here. Question is for our representatives in the government. I'm curious, I appreciate the fact that we have a tax holiday in August, September, and October on groceries. What would be the likelihood in the future, either short or distant, of the tax rate on groceries being lowered? I'm not saying eliminated, just brought down. There are states that, every state handles their finances differently. Tennessee's obviously doing it right since they have a surplus. But is there any likelihood of that being taken into consideration at some point?
Senator McNally, you want to take that first?
Yes, thank you. There's a likelihood that it would be done on a one-time basis, and that's because the surplus, a lot of the surplus is in one-time funds. Also, we want to make sure our rainy day fund and our reserves are more than adequate, and that's because we have a great concern about what's happening at the federal level as far as a recession or a dramatic downturn in the economy. They're printing money and spending it like it was going out of style. And it's a shame. I think the debt right before the 08-09 recession, the federal debt was around 9 trillion. Today it's 31 trillion, and it's continuing to rise. So if the federal government does get in trouble, we want to make sure the state is able to carry on essential services without having to borrow money. So as far as your specific question, I can see it happening on a one-time basis, but not until we're a little bit more sure of what's going on at the federal level in order to commit money on a recurring basis.
Representative Russell, do you want to address that?
I just agree, of course, with what Lieutenant Governor McNally said, and also I believe that it did decrease a little bit under the Improve Act back in 2017. I can't remember the exact percentage, but it did come down in 2017 or 18.
Yes, next question, please, ma'am.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this afternoon.
May we have your name, please?
My name is Michelle Harris Fritz. I'm a lifelong resident of Loudon County. I'm 63 years old. My area of concern is in regards to the Tennessee Public Records Act, which was passed by the Tennessee General Assembly. The General Assembly continues to make changes to the TPRA, adding more restrictive requirements for obtaining public records, yet has not provided any relief of those restrictions for the general public and accessing public records. The Tennessee Office of Open Records Counsel can assist by mediating for a citizen, but has no authority or no power to enforce those laws. It is therefore left up to the citizens to hire their own attorney to pursue the government to abide by our state law. At present date, I find myself in this situation with the county mayor's office, the Loudon County Board of Education chair, and the newly elected Loudon County Solid Waste Commission chair, who is also a county commissioner in regards to obtaining public records and information. They have either denied, ignored, or required me to fill out unnecessary forms for my request to inspect records. Some of these requests have been denied for months.
Ma'am, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yes,
Please get to your question, please. We need you to be succinct. I know you want to go on the record as to what is the issue, and obviously you have an issue.
I
Please
do.
direct your question, and who are you directing it to?
I'm directing it to Mr. Russell and Mr. McNally. May I continue?
Question, please.
Well, my question has to do with what can be done that we as citizens so my question to you is, what can we as citizens do to assist you in initiating legislation that strengthens and defines our state laws in regards to fair and open government, open to access to open public records, and hold government officials to the law without imposing the financial responsibility of ordinary citizens in hiring legal counsel to enforce state laws?
Who would like to take that first? Representative Russell?
I'll go first. That's the first I've heard about it. I guess the biggest thing that I would need is a recommendation from you, what you want changed. We can review it and see if it's something that if you'll email that to me. But there's three things I do whenever I'm either looking to vote on a bill or present a bill. That's the first thing I look at. Does it make common sense? What's my district want me to do? What's the right thing for the state of Tennessee? And whatever you send me, I will put in my folder. I'll review it, and I'll consider those three things.
Senator McNally, do you want to address that?
I keep forgetting that, the green button. I've actually chaired the Senate side of a hearing on public records a number of years ago, and we were able to affect a few changes. in that. One was establishing the ombudsman that helps negotiate the public records, and I believe that's now with the comptroller's office. And certainly that individual can go to the comptroller and make recommendations to him, and he can then, if it's in violation of the law, he can then put that in reports that go to the county. But I'll be happy to see what specifically you're interested in, and you can send me an email, or I can talk to Lowell about it, either one. Thank you.
Next question, please.
Hi, I'm Joe Betancourt, and I'm coming up on my, well, I've been in Tellico Village for about 49 weeks. We're asylum seekers from Massachusetts, new residents to Tellico Village. And my question, I guess, would be to Senator McNally and Representative Russell, and it has to do with the governor's upcoming special session, the extreme risk order protection session. And my concern coming from, I came from a state with very, 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 very strict gun laws. And I was a legal gun owner in Massachusetts. I'm a legal gun owner in Tennessee. And I guess my concern is if the concern is about mental health issues of individuals, and we want to take away people's firearms for mental health issues. I think if it's a mental health issue, the issue that should be addressed should be the mental health, not the firearms. If they need help with mental health, there are laws that they can be emergently committed to be evaluated by a mental health professional. If that's the problem, if somebody is in a mental health crisis and you take away their firearms, there are still plenty of ways for them to kill themselves or to harm other people. So if the issue is mental health, I think that's what should be addressed, and that further restriction on gun laws would, I mean, there's all kinds of constitutional
Sir,
concerns
we
with that.
need your question so that they have a chance to
I guess I
answer
want
it,
to know what
please. Wrap
Senator
up your question if you
McNally's
would.
and Representative Russell's positions are on the governor's upcoming special session on the extreme risk order protection. And then I guess the follow-up question would be, how would such a law be enforced? And I guess that would be to Mayor Bradshaw and to Sheriff Davis.
Okay, Senator McNally?
Well, I had talked with the governor, and I think he's interested in really the safety aspect of the gun issue. The fact that a lot of the mass shootings are committed by gangs, and then there's also people that commit suicide, but they want to do it in a way they'll, quote, be remembered. And that was in the notes from the Covenant shooter, I believe. But you're right, the issues with the individual, and it's a mental health issue, and I think we need to concentrate on how we are able to care for that individual. And right now, our mental health facilities, especially long-term, are really lacking. There was a period in which we closed down one in Greene County and one in Knoxville. And so the closest one for the sheriff is Chattanooga. And he has to take an individual down to Chattanooga, and they may or may not accept him, and that ties up a deputy for a good most of his shift, if not all of it. So we want to make sure that the public safety issues are addressed, that we go after the gangs, we go after the people that are getting money from, or getting drugs from Mexico and from China and bringing them into the United States. Part of it's an immigration problem. The governor sent National Guard troops to the Texas border, and I went with him to see them off. But in our conversation with the governor, he did seem to indicate that he was looking at the individual more so than the weapon. And I think that's something that would be well received, I believe, by the legislature.
Representative Russell?
Thank you, and thank you, Joe, for that question. So the special session in itself, I sort of wish we went in the direction of an ad hoc committee where we studied it during the summer, had people come in and had testimony and looked at the manifesto from the shooter and all that. But I think it's safe to say that if we go around this room, that most people would say as an elected official, the primary responsibility an elected official has is public safety. So, I look forward to going down and seeing what the legislative body is going to do, and I will respect that and do that. But I think whenever we look at these murders and killings, whatever you want to call them, I think we've got to look at how history repeats itself. If you look back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, you had the Wild West. In the early 1900s, you had the gang. You had gangsters running across the country, shooting up places, killing people, and back then, people was living in a time where it took them 25 or 30 years to try to figure out what was going on, and they had to figure out three things: what the problem was, how to stop it, and how to prevent it. It depends on how you look at the way they did that. It took about, like I said, 25 or 30 years, and they stopped it for about, 60, 70 years, and it started back up again. And unfortunately, we're in a situation where I think we've got to look at how they did it back then. And then I broke that down the simplest as I could for me to understand, to hopefully relay it to what I think. And this is nothing professional study done. This is just me saying this. But I think the first thing we got to look at is going to have to be fixed at a federal level. Because no matter what we do at a state level, the best we can do is delay any kind of murders of that type or prevent it. But that don't mean the state of Tennessee shouldn't do all we can to prevent these things. Don't get me wrong there. So we got to agree that it's going to have to be done at a federal level, because whenever you can easily cross state lines. The second thing I think we're going to have to do is look at what Howard Baker said constantly. And that is, we got to consider the other person may be right. We might not agree on the whole thing the other party says, but we might find something that we all can agree on and compromise that might prevent some of these murders. And I guess the third thing is we got to look at, neither party has been really impressive on doing anything about it. The Democrats will tell you all day long that it says it's out of range.
Out of range. You said you're sitting in the wrong seat.
Try
I'm
this.
sitting in the wrong seat.
Oh.
It's okay, let's try this again. It's green now. So I think that when you look at it, the Democrats will tell you it is guns and they don't look anywhere else. Some might say it's mental health and that we need to expand Medicaid, and that's what the Democrats will tell you. The Republicans will tell you it is all mental health, but we've got to do more to address mental health that was just discussed. And for me, I think, like the Lieutenant Governor said, the mental health facilities, I think that we need to prevent bullying in schools. I ran a bill this past year that would make it easier for the SROs to go and consult with district attorneys in K through 12 schools where kids are being bullied. Unfortunately, it got stopped in committee. I hope to bring that back. The bullying statutes need to be more. And I also think we need to have deterrence. I think one of the things that came out of this last Covington school shooting is that the shooter chose Covenant School because it was the less least of the resistance. So we got to make sure we spend this money equipping the schools, whether, I think every school should have a gate that they shut at 8:30 in the morning and open up at 2:30 in the afternoon. I actually passed a bill this past year that where we execute people in 30 business days that kills a first responder, does a school shooting or any type of school killing with a deadly weapon, or kills a mass amount of people with a deadly weapon. And you didn't hear that on the news. And that's surprising to me. I ran a pumpkin pie resolution that made the national news and kill people. We execute people in 30 business days, and that don't make the news at all. But,
Good job on your pumpkin pie bill, by the way.
Thank you. But that's all I got on that.
Okay, Mayor Bradshaw, we're going to go to you, and actually, we're going to go right down to the fire chief as well with this question on guns and so forth. So just, if you can, notice we have a line waiting for questions too, so try to make your answers as succinct as possible, please.
I'll be very quick. Loudon County is Second Amendment sanctuary county, and, we don't have a gun problem, we've got a heart problem. This is something I don't think can be fixed at the state and maybe not at the federal level, because simple fact, the American family is deteriorated. And that's where it all roots down to. Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets picked on. You can't fight in school anymore. Not that you should be fighting in school, don't get me wrong. But Sheriff will attest, we've got a generation of officers who's never been in a fist fight. And so, people have taken, and people may not like this, but I'll stand by my convictions. We've took God out of school, and we've took God out of the families, and now we're destroying the families. And kids are left to be raised on television. And a lot of kids get to watch whatever that comes on the tube. My kids, it drove my kids nuts because we were very restrictive on what. But they see this violence. You've got broken families, broken homes. There is a lot of mental health. I think, to me, the biggest step would be to improve mental health then, because small towns like this, I seen it when I was with Loudon Police Department, good policing, and that's part of our investment into law enforcement here in the county, is that getting to know the community, because we've had them. We had a gentleman in Loudon City that we knew eventually was going to one day do something really bad. We knew to keep it on. We knew to go to his family, and they took the guns away from him, where it would have, something like that could have very easily happened here. So there's no easy button for it, but the only thing scarier to me than the government just telling that nobody can have a gun is for the government to tell who can or cannot have a gun. And so that's a huge issue.
Sheriff Davis, your comments.
Okay, I'll speak a little bit, a couple of different areas of that. Like the mayor, I'm very Second Amendment. I believe in guns. I don't believe in a lot of gun laws, to be perfectly honest with you. There's a fairness about it, and people use that as an agenda to push some of their own beliefs of control. I will say, because a lot of the gun laws that they say they're going to take away from people, it's not the guns, it's the people. The people, we work many crimes where a gun may be involved, and it's usually stolen from a law-abiding citizen that has a right to have a gun. And most people that have the gun issues aren't supposed to have a gun anyway. Just like the old joke is, so won't you make murder illegal? Oh, it already is illegal. So, people still kill people. On the mental health side of it, we have done really good. The state, Tennessee Corrections Institute, we have a grant through them, a $50,000 grant last year, because we came into the issue of, like the Lieutenant Governor said, we have to transport, by Constitution, we transport all voluntary and involuntary mental health confinement orders. And our closest mental health hospital is Chattanooga at Moccasin Bend. The issue with that is we have to protect ourselves, and some of these patients, and I'm going to use that word specifically for a reason, are treated like criminals. So if you have a emotional breakdown or a mental event, you haven't harmed anybody. You may have threatened, but you're not guilty of a crime. You're treated like an inmate, like a criminal. You're handcuffed, you're put in the back of a police car by a uniformed officer, and you're taken an hour, hour and a half down the road to a mental facility. And then if they don't accept you, you're brought back in handcuffs and turned back over. So the state has done very well with this grant. We have gotten, it's called the mental health grant, and it takes the sheriff's office somewhat out of it. There's a couple options you can do with that. One is you can get an unmarked police car. You have to cover all your police insignias. But we found it better to go a different route where there's a couple of vendors out there that are on the medical side. So an ambulance picks you up. They are medically trained if you have a medical event during the transport or you have issues already, and you're treated like a patient, just like you are. Now, if you're very violent, then we take you for that. But the way we handle a mental illness event, and everybody knows my jail is pretty full, and majority of them have some type or some severity of mental illness. If we have an event, say someone has a breakdown and they fire a gun, we'll approach that person as safely as we can, obviously not trying to hurt the individual. We talk to them and we take those guns. We don't seize them, but we do take them from their possession and hold them, because we can't just seize them without a court order. Now, if they've not committed a crime, we do have the authority to take those guns for safekeeping until a mental evaluation can be done. We've done that before. We go, we put them in our evidence, they're there, there's record of it. They have to bring us where if they're not arrested for any crime, they're taken for a mental evaluation, they bring us or we speak to the evaluator. If they feel comfortable, they can have their firearms back, we return their firearms. If not, we'll contact a family member to see if they would like the firearms. We're not in it for profit. We're not about taking people's personal property, especially a firearm. And we give it to the family with a stern warning. You're getting these for a specific reason, to keep them away from this individual, and we trust that you'll do that. But the state has done really good at giving us money for that. Stopping some type of gun violence, we do everything that we possibly can. We work really good with the schools, really good with our county and state officials for funding. Loudon County is one of, my opinion, the best in school safety and safety for overall. We have certified deputies at every county office. Or not at the county office building, but every courthouse. We have them at every school. Where this money was to give an SRO for every school, we have 9. We have 11 SROs. We have 1 in every school and 2 at each high school. The county commission was grateful enough, or the budget committee, to fund us another one or recommend another one so we can handle the tech center. So now even though it's under a school number, we should have an SRO in every education facility in Loudon County. We're offering training to those private schools, the church schools that are in Loudon County. We're going to offer training for those, for their personnel, to be able to handle some type of active shooter. The schools are working very hard to change or improve on their safety, whether it be bullet-resistant film or just a big area of glass. Locks, we've worked well with. If the school's locked down, we have ways that law enforcement can enter. So it's something on the forefront. And like Lowell said, there was 300 troopers. We have, I think, 120 of those or so are actual troopers. And then there's Department of Safety, Homeland Security special agents. I think there's 140 of those, which make more money than deputies. Anyway, 140 of those that will be attached, 1 or more, to each county to ensure that the schools are doing what they're supposed to, and we're all working together for the greater good. So I'm not for taking guns unless there's an obvious reason for it, because criminals are going to get guns anyway, and I feel you have a right to protect yourself, and that's period. I've asked the Tennessee Sheriff's Association, which I'm a part of, I'm on the legislative committee, to find out with their attorneys exactly what authority a sheriff has, because that was a big topic during the election of what is your authority. We can kick the federal government out, all this. I want it on parchment paper in the Constitution, what my authority is, because hopefully it never comes, but when it comes down to that, my responsibility is to you. I'm the top chief law enforcement in the county, and that's for a reason, because every other law enforcement executive is appointed. They answer to somebody, a mayor, a council, or somebody, a federal agent, a Congress, whoever. A sheriff is the only one elected by the people. So my boss is you. And that's who I'm here to serve, but I'm also here for your best interest. And I think I hold that very sincere to my heart that, you know, I'm elected by you, so my first obligation is to you all.
Commissioner Cullen, want to address that? I know that the commission did a resolution on the red flag laws, but do you have any comments you want to make on the special session coming up? You didn't have any comment, Henry?
On the special session coming up in Nashville, I don't think the red flag laws will fly. That's my opinion.
Chief, I have a question for you. Has the department ever responded to an emergency call where guns were involved?
Yes, and we are, follow the direction of the sheriff, and we do a staging a block or two away, and we had one earlier this year. And it can reflect back on the patient having their weapons taken and all that stuff. So it works, and we follow the direction of the sheriff.
Okay. I don't know, I don't usually mention it, but I have served on the fire department for a few years, the first years that I was in the village. When I was on, we did an active shooter drill. Are you still doing those drills? Could you explain how that works?
The active shooter drill is now retitled Rescue Task Force by the Homeland Security, and we just had 8 of our members certified for that, and we're actively available and working with the local law enforcement agencies if and when it comes about, that we are trained to work behind the law enforcement and to treat and handle patients or on a situation.
I wanted to make sure to get that out because I don't know how many residents were aware that we had that right here in the village. So, next.
Hello, my name is Michael Robbins. Had the privilege of living here in the Paradise for 5 years. I appreciate you all coming here. Realize you didn't have to. I'm glad you did. I would like to ask Buddy and Henry in particular about growth in the county. County's taken a position, as I understand it, on residential growth, as I observed attending the county commission meetings, basically putting a stop at the county level and putting it in the hands solely of the cities, Loudon and Lenore City, Greenback, Philadelphia, who are not represented here. But I'd like to ask a two-part question, one on residential growth, but the other on commercial growth. My observation in my lifetime is that without commercial growth and controlled residential growth, taxes go through the roof. So I'd like your opinion. Am I correct to perceive this as a no-growth county? And as such, ask your opinion as to how we will be able to control property taxes as a no-growth county.
Mayor Bradshaw, you want to go first?
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. The no growth is maybe a little harsh, very slim growth may be more appropriate. County Commission chose to do away with our planned unit developments, which at that point in time was 2.5 per acre. It is possible now to do up to 2 units per acre inside of Loudon County, outside the industrialized areas, incorporated areas, I'm sorry. It's a double-edged sword because if you look, our growth has been absolutely incredible. And what it's done is inflate the housing market incredibly. And even as the county has attempted to slow some of it down, we've kind of insulated the inflation on our housing market. One thing we are seeing is that people that aren't moving here, that aren't selling exorbitant homes or selling their homes from the high tax states, they're having a hard time coming in because housing is just that expensive right now. I think that bubble's about to burst, and I think we're going to see it come down. I don't think it'll impact Loudon County and East Tennessee as much as it will some parts of the country, but it will have an impact. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be too drastic here because, our taxes are extremely low anyway, and one of the things about the push to slow down some of the growth is everything that comes with it. We have some restrictions as far as sewer. You know, if you're going to build very densely, you got to have sewer. The roads are more expensive to build than ever. And the one big ticket item that is reoccurring is schools. If you look at the growth on the upper end of the county, especially the upper end of the county, now the city of Loudon has had some pretty expansive growth as well, but Lenore City has taken a very open approach. That's their right as a city. But the thing about that is we have joint schools. The Lenore City school system is independent of Loudon County, but county students attend city schools, so therefore city students can also attend county schools. So a year from now, probably about 11 months from now, it's going to be a very hard decision to whether or not we build a 7 through 12 school on the upper end. We've been pretty plain with the school board and the school administration because it would require a tax increase, and there's no community it hits harder than here in Tellico Village. But if they want it, they're going to be the ones that have to sell it and rally support behind it. And so that's going to be a huge, huge discussion over the next, like I said, 10, 11 months. And about 11 months, it's going to come to a head. We'll have to make that decision. But people, when I talk around the state and the growth that we have and how we maintain our tax rate, it just blows people's minds. How in the world can you do that? And a lot of it is our retirement community. Loudon County is very fortunate that, Tellico Village is our largest tax base as far as community goes, and our least burdensome on the school system. And so we've got a great balance here in Loudon County, and so that's one of the reasons that help make us successful. But controlling the growth, and it's not necessarily the growth, it's everything that comes with it. So it's going to be a very interesting next few months, next 11 months, and encourage everyone just to be active with it and keep their eye on it. Henry?
Commissioner Cullen.
Kind of a misnomer to say we're no growth. It's controlled growth. Buddy hit on the key items. Roads, sewer, water. Take a look at what's happened at LUB and LCUB. They both had to upgrade their sewer system. And if Chet would tell you, I don't know, is he still here? He's facing the same thing here in the village. And that's the problem. The people told us loud and clear at a number of meetings, they didn't want Loudon County to be another Hardin Valley and another Farragut. And in fact, came to a head, about a year ago, Buddy? They asked for a PUD over in Greenback. PUD was 2.5 units per acre. The people came out in mass, said, don't do it. Commission voted, and they're the final say, to turn down the PUD. The builder went to court, Chancery Court, with Chancellor McFarland, sued the county. Depositions were taken. In mine, they questioned me relentless why I turned it down. I said the bottom line was the people didn't want it. They dismissed me after I said that. It went to court, and the builder lost. Against everybody telling us we're going to lose $3 million, we're going to lose this. The ruling was the commission has the final say, and the will of the people is forefront in the suit. So it's not that we're no growth. You'll never survive. But we've been fortunate here in Loudon County. Penny value's gone up. We maintained the tax rate. In fact, I don't want to take the thunder away from Buddy, but you won't get a tax increase this year. It's going to stay at 15183. We had a big growth in the fund balance, big growth in the penny value. So I think taking into account the infrastructure, we made the right decision. So it's not no growth, it's controlled growth. Here in the village, TRDA, when the lease was signed with Cooper, Cooper gave them the permitting requirements, or in effect, planning and zoning authority. So we don't do anything in the village. That's entirely up to Chet and the POA board. So I hope that clears up some of the issues.
Thanks. Next question, Pat?
Hello, my name is Pat Hunter, and I actually have two questions. I'd like to thank everybody for their updates with their respective departments. One question that I have, and it's for the state officials. I read an article, House Leader pushes resolution to move county elections to November. And apparently it's something that Representative Lambert is pushing. And it's going to require, if I understood correctly, 2 votes in 2023 and 2024. And I'd like to know how you stand on this, and if you support this, if it went to a Constitution amendment, if the electorate voted overwhelmingly to do this, would you put a provision there that will allow local government to circumvent the will of the people? That's one of my questions.
Let's start with Senator McNally.
Okay, I wasn't aware of of him proposing it as a constitutional amendment. In order to amend the Constitution, either you have to have a convention, and then the people get to vote on what the convention proposes, or the Senate and House have to pass a resolution. The last time it has to pass by a 2/3 vote, and then it's voted on by the public. Each time it's voted on by the public, it's not necessarily the amount of votes that it's not necessarily whether it wins or loses. It has to receive a majority of votes that were cast in the gubernatorial election. So you can't have a situation in which a constitutional amendment, say, passes by 1,000 votes, but it doesn't meet that threshold, and then it doesn't happen. I'd be a little bit reluctant about mandating what counties should do as far as their local elections. I know we did overturn what they were doing in Knoxville, the city of Knoxville, where they had people from a district that were running at large in the primary, and that passed the Senate. But it's unusual that we get involved in a lot of mandates on local government, and I think I'd be hesitant to be for that mandate.
Okay, this is my concern. Back a number of years ago, there was a constitutional amendment. There was a ballot on the question with regards to the senior property tax freeze, and it was passed overwhelmingly by the voters statewide and in Loudon County. But it left it also to local government to pass a resolution to enact that. That never happened. Now, in surrounding counties, they did. Roane County, Knox County. There are a number of counties, but our county has not done that yet. So that would be my concern. And it says here, House Majority Leader William Lambert is sponsoring the resolution that would change the state's constitution and shift elections for judicial and civil officers from the first Thursday in August to the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Such a change would combine those elections for judges and county officials with the usual slate of elections for state and federal. I think we would have more people voting in those elections.
Is this your second question?
My second question has to do with, well, I'd like to ask Representative Russell how he feels about this.
So I agree with Lieutenant Governor McNally. I do have some concerns about the presidential election because we moved it up to, I believe it's to March on the presidential years. I have to go back and look at that. But Loudon County had passed a resolution opposing the change. William Lamberth ran it this year. It got over, I believe, 70-something votes. I have to go back and look at the vote count. I did vote for it because I didn't get the resolution from Loudon County. They moved my office from 504 to 634, and for some reason the resolution went down to my old office, so I didn't get to see it in time. But as of right now, if it comes up next year, or it won't not be next year, but the next General Assembly, because the first one has just got to get a majority vote, then the 2/3, as Lieutenant Governor McNally said. But I would have to really weigh it. I don't know that I'd vote for that again.
Okay. And my second question has to do with the new TISA, the TISA money investment in student achievement. Can you tell me how much more money Loudon County and Lenoir City Schools will be receiving this year over last year's BEP? Or if you can make that information available?
Yeah, I'd have to get you those figures.
Okay, because I'd like to see it statewide. And I'd like to thank Sheriff Davis. I think he's doing a really great job. And I've lived in big communities, big towns, and safety in our homes is really important. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Mr. Cullen.
Next question.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. My name's Rick Dram. I'm a resident of Tellico Village, also a proud member of the Conservative Club of Tellico. So I think we could all agree that the sanctity of the vote of the American citizens is one of our highest privileges, and that you gentlemen as elected officials, I would imagine, would agree that safeguarding that vote is also one of the highest responsibilities. So I have two real fast questions. It's a two-parter. One, my wife and I were fortunate enough to be in Turkey on Mother's Day. You say, well, does that have to do with anything? Well, it happened to be Election Day, and it was on a Sunday. And guess what? They have over 60 million people in Turkey, and they conducted the election in one day on Sunday. And additionally, 87.04% of the voters, registered voters, voted in that election. Now, by my calculation, that's about 54 million votes they counted. And oh, one other thing. They closed the polls at 7 p.m. on Sunday night, and the election results, amazingly, were reported by 10 p.m. that night. So in 3 hours, they counted 54 million votes accurately. Okay?
In order to not run out of time,
Okay,
please get to your question.
I'll be succinct. All right. So why does it take us an election month to count approximately 6,000, 8,000 votes that were voted in the last election in Loudon County? And my second part of that question is, 14 of us went on a pilgrimage to Franklin, witnessed voting machines being hacked in real time. Can a voting machine be hacked, in your opinion? And if you have a different opinion, we have a videotape of those machines. And if that's the case, why are we spending state money, county money on additional election machines? And oh, incidentally, Turkey voted on paper, all paper ballots. Thank you. That's my question.
Okay. Senator McNally, do you want to take that first?
Well, I don't know if I'd use totalitarian governments, Turkey being one of them, as the gold standard for elections. You know, there's a great debate about the current president in Turkey, whether he actually was elected or whether the election was fixed. As far as Tennessee's elections, the Heritage Foundation, which I'm sure you're aware of, ranks Tennessee as #1 in election integrity. And that doesn't mean we're going to stop there. There's, I think, a lot more that we can do to ensure that every person's vote is counted.
Representative Russell?
Thank you, and I agree. with Lieutenant Governor McNally. I'm always looking for making things better, if there's a way to make things better. And, if there's any ideas or anything like that that's out there, I think we've had Mark Goins come to the village and speak. I've actually sent an inquiry in to see about if there's been anybody on the election commission statewide that's brought up an issue, because the way it's set up, there's a number of Republicans and Democrats in each county that actually is on the board of elections per county. And as far as the last time I checked, there's not been one Republican or Democrat that actually works in the election that's brought up an issue. And I think that if there was, somebody would tell on the other person. As far as the voting machines being hacked, I'm not seeing it. I know there's a videotape of it. I'd be glad to watch it. And in fact, I was supposed to be watching one I think it was last week or week before last, and unfortunately the presenter couldn't present that. But I'm always looking into a way to prevent any kind of voter fraud. And I think that if we did go with paper ballots, you'd have to have some sort of a electronic system to count the ballots again, because you'd have to have some sort of audit system. And I don't know that you can get people to volunteer to sit there and count ballots twice. So that's my opinion.
Anyone else need to make a comment on that? Mayor Bradshaw, anything?
I'll just say this, Susan Harrison's our election commissioner, our director of elections here in Loudon County. She made a good point with me once, when I guess my second term I was running. The gentleman had asked, well, how easily can it be? And she goes, I'm not going to prison for anybody. So that's about how easy it can be. But the one good thing about our machines here in Loudon County is there is a paper trail. If there was ever a massive screw up, I guess, each ballot could be pulled out and counted. Because although it's not specific, and it's very scary to me, the way ours works, that you could almost, with cameras, get down to who voted for what, because it can go down to the minute they voted. If you look at the cameras, well, this person went in here at this particular minute, this is how they voted. But we do have the ability to go to a paper trail in the event something really went sideways with one of our elections. In Loudon County, it spoils us. I guess spoils me anyway, because, you hear about it happening in other places. I think in Loudon County, we're extremely safe.
Next question.
Good evening. My name is Linda Fall, and I've been a resident of Tellico Village for 5 years. 5 happy years. I'm not sorry that I moved from the state that I left. My question is for Representative Lowell and for Lieutenant Governor McNally. And one of the few things that I had to forego and sacrifice from moving from my previous state to Tennessee is my eligibility for medical marijuana. And I have a rare nerve disorder. There are many people out there that are suffering from all kinds of pain disorders, and they deal with this on a day-to-day basis. It can be debilitating. But unfortunately, or I don't know that it's a good substitute, but we have a real problem in this country, including state and local, here in Tennessee, with opioid overdoses and deaths. And so there is naturally a real reluctancy for physicians to prescribe something for pain medication, especially if it's going to be ongoing, if it isn't a temporary situation. And I have watched the bills that have been proposed for marijuana, either for recreational marijuana or medical marijuana. I'm not looking for recreational marijuana, but I can tell you that it can be very well controlled, the dispensaries, the growers of the product, the licensing, the screening that can happen. And I was very impressed, not with very many things from my past state, but I was impressed with the way they were able to make sure that this was carefully regulated. Can you tell me what the future of marijuana may be in this state? Will it be, even just as medical marijuana, could it be considered? Could it be proposed?
Well, it has been proposed a number of times, medical. One of the big problems is it's still a Schedule I substance. That means you can't write a prescription for it. And it's designated as something that has no medical use and has a high liability for addiction. A number of states, as you said, have proposed medical, and then sometimes that leads into recreational. And I've got great concerns about both. Actually, my wife had a relative in Arkansas who was in a nursing home, or assisted living, I'm sorry, and they noticed her hairdresser bill was very high. And so they looked into it and they found out that the hairdresser was also supplying this patient with marijuana. And she did it by having a card where she could obtain marijuana from the different dispensaries. And that card didn't have an expiration date on, even drugs legend drugs, that are prescribed, like my heart medicine. I have to get a prescription every year to have that renewed. On drugs that are in the control family, you have to get it renewed every 6 months. And there's specific amounts that I can get. I can't go to one drugstore and then go to another drugstore and get a prescription filled for the same thing. That will be flagged on the Controlled Substance Registry. So there's a lot of problems that we get into with the legalization of marijuana, whether it's controlled, whether it's medical or recreational. The bills, the first few years that I was down there, no bill was proposed about that. But over time, there have been bills, and it seems like there's more and more people voting for them. I cannot vote for it either way.
Representative Russell?
Thank you, Linda, for that question. I agree that recreational marijuana is out of the picture. I can't do that, and I think that you've got a concern about recreational marijuana. However, if the medical marijuana can be done in a really controlled way, I necessarily wouldn't have a problem with medical marijuana. And what I mean by that is, in 2021, the state of Tennessee created a medical marijuana commission, and they're to study how medical marijuana can come to Tennessee and be distributed to the patients. I personally would like to see it done in some sort of a pill format instead of smoking it. I think that Rick Simpson oil, I think that was coming through the legislature too, that had THC in it. The big thing that concerns me is back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the big thing we heard about was how well opioids was going to do to help people. And then here we are 20 years later, and opioids are killing people. So I just don't necessarily want that to happen with medical marijuana. So I'd like to see what the Medical Marijuana Commission presents to the legislative body and go from there.
Last question. Susan? Oh,
Sure.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and stay there, Susan, but Sheriff, you wanted to address that? Thank you.
I would just like to address your question from a law enforcement standpoint, and my heart goes out to you for that condition. I know they have seen it many times when someone comes to present a bill and it's for medical marijuana. Some of the people have it's horrific, some of the pain and the issues that they're going through. From a law enforcement standpoint, like I said, I'm on the legislative committee for the Tennessee Sheriff's Association, which represents all 95 sheriffs. And we have people and lobbyists, if you want to call them, I don't know if that's the right word, but really pushing against the legalization of marijuana. Like Representative Russell said, we're fearful of what it would turn out. You know, talking to law enforcement in other states that have legalized it, it's a nightmare for them. But you can go to downtown Nashville right now and you can't even walk down the street anymore because of illegal marijuana activity that's going on in their city. But with the opioids, that is, I think, where we're going is what we're fearful of, because right now we have kids in middle school that are using vapes, and they have marijuana or THC vapes in those vape pens. There's THC, and it's not the THC of the good old days, so to speak, where it was 30% in the 60s and 70s, and hydroponic weed was about 60%, but this is almost 100% THC, which people can overdose and die from. And to show you how it all comes full circle, my son works for our sheriff's office, and I was going through, I spot check a few videos, and not gonna lie, check his, make sure he's doing good. And I saw him using Narcan on a gentleman I went to high school with one day. The next day, another one of our officers was using Narcan on the same individual after a motorcycle wreck. So we had that individual, we saved his life twice. He had a pulse, but he was not breathing when my son got there. And we do try to do what's best for our community. So we give him Narcan. And I think that's where we're afraid of where it will go to, like Lowell said, and what, I think there's a way to do it. Law enforcement, I will tell you, is already preparing for it. Our canines, we have 2 canines in our department now that do not detect marijuana, because if it should pass in a year or two, that's a $25,000 investment down the tubes, because if they hit on a legal substance, then you're violating someone's rights. So we're already preparing for it. I think it will, unfortunately for us, pass in the future. But my heart does go out for you, for your condition.
Thank you, Sheriff. Susan?
My name is Susan Gingrich. I live here in the village. I'm a recovering bureaucrat from the state of Pennsylvania and an activist for good government. I just want to make a comment, Linda. I don't know if you know this or not, but Tennessee is the second most difficult state to obtain pain management, opioids. I've been following the legislation since I moved here in 2015, and there's been some good things done, but there's also been some others I don't agree with because of special interests taking control. But
Sue,
my
can
question,
we have your question,
yes,
please?
my question.
We have one other person waiting, and we are short on time, so go ahead.
Okay. Sheriff Davis, I remember my first commission meeting, you did a presentation on the jail overcrowding, and it really moved me. And I was very disturbed that it took the county 5 years to actually do anything about it, but they did, and I'm glad that you did get reinforcement. My question is, I saw an issue today, I was reading about it in the Epic Times, and it has to do with, they're noticing that there is now, in places in the country, fentanyl in marijuana, and they're finding it. And I'm asking, what kind of drug testing do you do when someone is arrested or someone comes into jail? What kind of testing are you testing for fentanyl? And also, if you are, who is paying for it? And if you aren't, who should be paying for it?
Okay, I'll be glad to
Okay,
address that.
Sheriff,
All
go
right.
for it.
Well, thank you for your comment. That was a long battle, but it worked out for the best. So, right now, well, in the past, we would take, when we would arrest you for some drug possession, we would take that. We would have test kits that we would pop the test kits where you see them on TV where they shake it. Now we're getting into the problems of doing that because fentanyl is so powerful. Our officers at risk. We encourage our officers. We've even changed our uniforms where they have a cargo pocket. A lot of my officers carry that Narcan in their pocket, so if they come across some accidentally, they can do self-preservation, and hopefully that one shot or two shots they have on them will help them. We get that through a grant from a Line 9, I believe it is, through the DA's office. I just talked yesterday about upping that to 4 doses that each officer carries because we have hit people up to 5 doses to save them. So we would send all of our drugs to the TBI lab to confirm the testing for court purposes. Those pop packs were not admissible in court. It gave us good probable cause to be able to send those for testing through the TBI. Unfortunately, with what we're taking in being so powerful, and even if you can't send anything, if you have a white powder, you can't send it to TBI unless you know what it is. They will not take unknown substances anymore. So what we do now currently, if there's a drug arrest, our narcotics unit, we used drug seize money, our drug fund, and we purchased, I believe we used drug fund money, that Narcan machine. The Narcan machine. I think we used drug fund money. If we didn't, we got the money from the county. The ARPA funds of the American Rescue Act. There's a $25,000 machine that's smaller than this right here. If you Catch a Smuggler on TV, you'll see them use this little machine, and it'll tell you what it is. Things we've done, and we can test on that. We can test that, and that machine is admissible in court, so we don't have to endanger anyone. We don't have to send it off to a lab. We can use that. We use that test, like I said, as evidence in court. We've taken it one step further because while actually me and some of my staff were at the new sheriff's school, we had a lady bring in quite a good amount of fentanyl. I really gotta be careful. She brought it into the jail, and it was in a place that's sometimes difficult to check.
I think it's nicknamed the lady's
Okay.
purse.
Yeah. Her jail purse, unfortunately, is what we call it. I'm sorry. So we got that from her, and she had enough in her body that obviously if it would have ruptured inside her body, it would have killed her. But also extracting that, it puts my staff in danger, and it had enough to kill every officer in that facility and every female that was in that pod, which you're talking 50 females would have been killed, and then you've got people responding, and then we're dropping like blue canaries until somebody figures out what's going on. So that was a big problem. We saw an extreme and pretty emergency need for some way to combat that. I instructed my jail administrator, find something to fix this. He did research, came back with research. We went to county commission again with some of the ARPA money, the American Rescue Act money, and they gave us $203,000 for an x-ray machine that sits outside our facility. Now every person that is arrested, which city, all the cities, the state, TWRA, everybody that's brought into jail in Loudon County is scanned for that machine, through that machine. We use that, one, to protect everybody in our facility, whether it be staff or inmate, because constitutionally we're responsible for them and their well-being. So we use that. Just yesterday we had a female come in. We scanned her. They saw something, but they were not sure what it was. They put her in a cell up front for 2 or 3 days, scanned her again, and still saw something but couldn't make out what it was. Not enough to obtain a search warrant to do a cavity and take her to the hospital. They put her in the pod, watched her very closely. One of my corrections officers saw an exchange, and then we locked down the cell. We had our canines come in and then retrieved about 3 grams of fentanyl that she had smuggled into the jail, even after all that testing. But it still went back to an officer being very vigilant and watching her every move to see the exchange. And then it was rolled in, and we've charged her with 3 felonies as of before I got here.
Because of the Citizens Academy,
Yes, ma'am.
I have wiped off grocery carts and
Oh, yeah.
my nozzle at the gas
Pumps,
station
yep.
because of fentanyl,
Yeah.
not because of COVID. I was doing that way before.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, unfortunately, I've dealt with a family all of my career. One of the sisters died, and her sisters said to me, you know, you can't even go out on the street and buy Xanax anymore. That's hard to hear, but it's everywhere. And, you know, we've said it, it's a matter of time. People are lacing marijuana with it. They're getting stuff in, they're pressing their own pills, they're selling them out on the street. And I just can't understand the mindset, and this is the fight that our whole community has, because it affects all of us, is when you can sit there and see somebody that's blue and give them 5 shots of Narcan, and they end up standing up and getting on the gurney and going to the hospital. 2 days later, they're right back doing it again. So I don't know how to fix it. I wish I did.
Thank you, Sheriff. Chief, do you have many calls where you need Narcan?
We have administered Narcan 4 times last year. Every member has that in their bag. And a stat that I just picked up yesterday in chatting with the director of Priority Ambulance, there were 23 drug-related deaths in Loudon County last year.
I have a few other quick questions for you. The average response time for when they call 911, what is our average response time for the fire department?
Our response time is running around 5 minutes from the time the phone call is in until someone is at the front door.
Okay. And so another question for you. Someone goes down in their home, you have a call, you've got to get in, the door's locked, or there's a code for the door. How do you get access in? A lot of people don't know this. They feel locked in their own home, and
We'll call 911 to see if they have a access code or key, or if someone else has a key to the residence. If not, we will be calling the Sheriff's Department to join us, and we have a device called the K-Tool, and we will find a less expensive or the least expensive door, and it basically spreads the jam so we can push the door in and gain entrance without breaking the $6,000 door.
okay. One other question that I hear a lot, people, you know this, people park in the fire lanes all the time. Tell them what happens to their car if you pull up because you need that hydrant, whatever.
We have a device, it's a big key. If they're parked in a parking space close to a fire hydrant, and we need to get to that fire hydrant, we will go through the windows with the hose to hook up to the hydrant. We don't have the time or luxury to tow that car away in a case of a fire, but we would go through the windows to do it. It has been done. Not in Tellico Village.
I have described that to a few people, and they thought I was joking, but, and Mayor, I wanted to ask you, you have often said that local shopping is what helps keep our tax base and our taxes low. Has the local shopping decreased since the pandemic, and are more tax dollars going outside the county?
The sales tax has increased, absolutely. Like I said, I'm going to give all the credit to Nashville, to Lieutenant Governor, and Representative Russell, you there when the internet sales tax was passed?
Yeah.
That was a stroke of genius. And it's especially during the pandemic, it was just boomed. And so, and I tell this story, I hope Mr. Fowler don't mind me telling it. You stole the Fowler Furniture at Watt Road. Family comes in, they found a $30,000 bedroom suit they really liked. They ordered it on the internet in North Carolina and had it shipped and saved $3,000 because they didn't have to pay sales tax at that point in time. Since then, the internet sales tax, it's leveled the playing field for local vendors, local businesses. And like I said, actually my friend Jimmy Matlock said that, he goes, the best way to keep your property taxes down is to spend local. And Loudon County does a great job of that.
And Henry, burst your balloon, our taxes are not going up, is that correct?
They are not. We are around 3 or 4 in the bottom of the state, and those are not necessarily true because Gibson County typically has the lowest, but all of their schools are in special school districts, so it doesn't count, whereas we operate a school. So
Thank you.
I always never give them the credit they deserve.
Thank you. We have one more question.
That's eight in a row. No tax.
Nicely done, thank you. Yes, next question.
My name is Pamela Hamlin, and I live here in the village. And I just have kind of a follow-up question. You guys talked about growth, and you talked about possibly a school. You also talked about, when you talked about guns, you also talked about mental health. Has there been, and I'm not even sure who I'm asking, but has there been any consideration of instituting a classical American education curriculum in a school in this area?
So who would like to take that first? Will they consider it on the state level? And if so, we'll start here and just go right down to whoever else wants to take that. Representative Russell.
So I guess I'd have to first ask, how do you define that?
Reading, writing, and arithmetic?
Well, kind of. It's, before it got taught to just the testing, really, it's much more classical. Before the new math, there is a curriculum that's called that. I don't know, Rick might be able to explain it better than me. But it's called Classic American Education Curriculum that is out there that we're working on trying to get.
So I would have to look more into what it is. I do know that, of course, Common Core has not been taught in Tennessee as far as I know. Tennessee history's been taught in the 5th grade. They're trying to move that to the 3rd grade. I've got a bill that I'm going to run next year to keep it in the 5th grade. I think moving Tennessee history to the 3rd grade is just not very smart because the kids won't remember it. Then we talked a little bit about mental health a little earlier today, and one of the bills that I've got drafted, I've not filed it yet, I'm trying to see if it's going to fall within this special session in August, is I think kids should be taught social skills in K through 12, because right now all they're doing is sitting there on their phones or video games when they get home. I think we need to look at the way that they interact with people. I think whatever they do, they may have to do 4 or 8 hours a month, and it can't be on any kind of electronic device. They actually have to sit there and talk. I think it should be where sports is not involved, like some sort of puzzles or games or something where actually they have to talk and communicate. So, thank you.
Mayor Bradshaw?
As far as the public schools, of course, so much is based on the Tennessee Achieves test. It's hard. And I've spoke with our school director, Mike Guerin, and I know Rick and the Conservative Club have an extreme interest in a Hillsdale curriculum school. And one of the things I've talked with Mike, and he's agreed with, that, you know, if in fact we end up having to build a school, the Hillsdale would have to come through the Loudon County Board of Education. There's a tie-in. Am I right with that, Rick? Am I correct? And
It's the maintenance and the operational costs that the county and the state would then be responsible for. But they'll buy the land, they'll build the building. So, but they'll only do K through 4, so it would require some shifting going on to make other classrooms available if the 7 through 12.
And perhaps this discussion needs to take place where you can really get into details with it further.
And Director Guerin said he's absolutely and open to listening to it. I think it's, like I said, teaching too many people, it's too much pressure on the test, teachers and students alike. And so my daughter teaches 3rd grade Eaton, and so I think, you know, I think the notion behind the test was great. I just think somewhere along the line, like every other pretty good idea, it's easy to get sidetracked with.
So I would encourage you to schedule those meetings with these people to make the difference and to find out how you can make it happen, because that is exactly how it begins to happen. Does anyone else have any comments they can make in 30 seconds or less, because we need to exit the room at 6 p.m. For the most part, I think we have completed. Yes.
If I could, I'd just like to share, we like to thank some gentlemen on the table here this evening for their support in obtaining grants. We received a $100,000 grant from the American Rescue Act from Commissioners Games and Randolph, and $175,000 from Commissioner Cullen. The $175,000 was for a new boat that will be coming in December. It'll be a fire rescue boat, a true fire rescue boat. And the $100,000 along with the $30,000 grant that we received from the State Fire Marshal Office for air packs, self-contained air breathing apparatus for all of our firefighters. We're replacing 22 sets of those. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. That does bring in mind, I've had questions posed to me as to why the District 1 commissioners are not present tonight. Well, we have a full house. This was originally only supposed to be 3 people tonight. It's 6 because in May, without an elevator access, we had to cancel. And so May got scheduled to June, so you're so graciously fitting up there so nicely. Thank you for accommodating each other. But District 1 commissioners could not be present with District 3 commissioners due to the Sunshine Law. District 1 commissioners will be brought in the fall, and each of them will have a different date. So they will be here so that District 1 is represented in the same type of forum. So I wanted to make sure. The one thing I do need to ask, gentlemen, as you know, it's photo time. So please give us like 2 minutes for a photo up front, and then they're yours. Thank you so very much, everyone.